Be very interesting.
Could be very interesting.
All right. I call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Committee to order.
So the first and only item on the deliberative is a proposed 4-lot subdivision. Before I read through the staff report, let me give you a bit of a history on this. In 1997, the then owner applied for, under our old zoning ordinance, R5, which was a condominium zoning and a conditional use permit in order to develop this lot. Both were granted. And in the conditional use permit, it specified that only 3 residences were allowed. When we rewrote our ordinance in 2009, we got rid of the R5 and the requirement for a conditional use permit in order to do condominium development, and we changed it to the planned development district. So any existing R5 zoning turned into a PDD. That's what this currently is. At that time, it was only ownership of the house, no property. So now they're doing a 4-lot subdivision with the same 3 units, the 2 existing and the 1 future unit, which is unit C. And then the outlot of the remainder. You had asked about access. If you look right here,
Yes,
Willow Lane ends right here,
right.
but when they did the development back in 97, they reserved this link to the property for
Okay.
access. And then from here moving forward, this is all common access. So all 3 lots will have access from this reserved portion.
Yeah. Here's, and we've had some discussion. I mean, you answered some of my questions.
Okay.
I still have some additional questions about this. And since we're talking about access, okay, is there a legal agreement between all of these properties to have 5 properties use that access rather than,
There's only 3.
there's 5. There's this property here has that building right here with a driveway that comes out here.
Right, okay. Yep,
So
you're right.
so this property is using that access. You have this large parcel here that is using that access. Plus now you're gonna have 3 additional properties. So you're looking at 5 properties that use that access.
If you look at the description here, there's a deed that dedicates this.
Okay, does that deed allow for 5 properties to use it?
I can't answer that because I don't have,
Well, I think we need to look at that deed. I think that has to be looked at to see if it will allow for 5
well, keep
properties.
in mind, they already have access.
Yes, but now, right, the way it is right now, there are only 2 properties.
Right.
There's this property and this property. And I don't know, I looked to see properties, how many properties can use a common driveway.
It depends on what it states in whatever easement there is, assuming that there's an easement.
Well,
But keep in mind, these buildings are all here now with access. The only thing that's changing is they're putting parcel lines in here with land ownership. These 2 buildings exist with access, as does this.
I understand that, but it's this land division that bothers me.
Okay,
Okay, and I was, you know, we talked about this. You say a condominium and a planned development district are the same.
from our perspective,
Okay,
the developer can do a condominium development and they can have an agreement of A through Z, which would not apply to us. We term condo and PDD is the same now. We didn't back in 97 when this was
Okay.
done.
okay. you know, I looked up state code and in number one, they said a condominium is not a zoning designation,
That's correct.
okay? And that's why I was kind of asking, well, is that the same as a planned
Right.
development district? And if they are the same, then that's not a zoning district.
Based on the definition you're reading, but from our perspective, planned development district covers condominium development.
That's fine.
Yep.
But is that what is the definition of that zoning? I didn't find, you know, to me, that's not a zoning.
Okay, well, based on chapter 23, which is the Winnebago County zoning ordinance, planned development district is a zoning classification and each one is unique unto itself. And it's because of situations like this where somebody wants to parcel off on off of a private road that they need the PDD, because otherwise they wouldn't meet our road right-of-way requirements. So each planned development district is unique in its own way, shape, or form based on however they want to do it. We've had this, which is a 4-lot proposed PDD. We've had 20 to 30 units planned in a PDD. It's unique to the proposed development. So under chapter 23, which is the zoning ordinance, the planned development district is a zoning category.
Okay,
Unique.
where in chapter 23 is that?
I believe I sent you the section. It's under,
No, you didn't specify the section.
is that my response?
Well, I put them all together so I could answer by the questions. That's, here's the second page.
There, 23.7-63.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay. All right, I will
So-
have to reread that.
So let me just read the staff report into the record so we can.
Okay,
The applicant is David Stern, owner is David Stern. The location of the property is south of 9251 Willow Lane and west of 9213 Willow Lane, town of Wolf River. Existing use is single-family residential with an overlay of a planned development district. The proposed use is a typo. That should not say it's R2 single family and R3 two-family. It's single family. Current zoning is planned development district. Adjacent zoning is A2 general agriculture. That's also a typo. There's no A1 or R1 there. I apologize for that. Comments. Number 1, development is compatible with adjacent development. 2, proposed development is in compliance with Winnebago County Comprehensive Future Land Use Plan and the Winnebago County Land Division Ordinance. Recommendation for approval subject to the following conditions. 1, final plat shall constitute the entire area of the preliminary plat. 2, final plat to clearly show all current owners' name, corporation title where applicable, and or corporate name. Names to be clearly shown underneath the signature lines. 3, final plat to be reviewed and approved by GIS, which is Geographic Information Systems Office, and property lister prior to scheduling for final approval. 4, final plat to have the following statement contained in the document, quote, this plat is contained wholly within the property described in the following recorded instruments, parent list appropriate document numbers and corresponding tax parcel numbers, unquote. 5, any riparian lot and or lot wholly within 300 feet from a navigable body of water shall be subject to county impervious surface standards. 6, final plat shall not be scheduled for approval by Winnebago County until such time as written confirmation from the town of Wolf River stating that their approval of said plat be submitted to this department.
Why do you have number 6 in there? Why? I find that unusual. We normally don't have to wait for the town to approve a plat.
What number?
Number 6 on the second page here. Why do we have to get written confirmation of the town a little further? Stating their approval of said plat.
Because we are the last approval, the last signature. And we don't want to approve a plat. if the
Kind of
town-
like a CSM deal
It's
with all
exactly
these
like a
signatures.
CSM.
Okay, okay,
We are the end of the line. and We
Okay.
want to make sure everybody else who signs that has.
and that's
approved
your
it.
only,
That's standard.
that's standard, okay,
Yep.
all right. So, back to Howie's question, and I personally don't care if they don't have a legal document. I would think they'd get a legal document. Is that our problem that they don't have a legal document to access?
That's a town,
That's a town
it's
issue.
up to the town.
Or the individuals that own the property should.
Right, and again, keep in mind, this was already approved
Mhm.
as it's being shown in
Mhm,
97.
mhm.
No, it didn't have these property lines in it.
That's the difference,
That's the difference.
but the access has not changed. So you can put a line around a building.
Right,
At the end of
right.
the day, the access has not changed. And they're not, the conditional use permit was approved for 3 residences, the 2 existing and the 1
Future,
future.
yes.
And at that time, the access was no different than is currently being proposed.
And I accept that, but in my mind, it changes when you parcel this off. Now, are these parcels? And this is where I don't know the definitions and I'm trying to
Sure.
get a better handle on this. Okay, so, these parcels, when I read the state code, I read it as if they didn't allow a special, a condominium had to be in some other zoning. Okay, there wasn't that condominium zoning. So if,
What statute was that?
I didn't write that down and I'll be honest with you, I have spent hours trying to find this stuff. So this had to be zoned something else, which is why I tried to find this parcel on the GIS and I can't find it. I can find a tax ID for these 2 individual houses, but there's no land associated with that. And this parcel wasn't on the GIS map.
It's
That I
on
could-
there, but there's no parcel tag to it.
It physically shows this parcel, but there's no tag to it. So I couldn't look up the tax information on it to find out what it's zoned.
In 1997, the entirety of the parcel was zoned A2, which is general agriculture.
Okay,
They applied for, at the time, we had an R5 zoning district, which was strictly for condominium development.
yeah,
So it went from A2 to R5. And the conditional use permit, which was required of the zoning ordinance at that time, was approved. It then changed to a PDD in 2010, when we rewrote our zoning ordinance, which included a new zoning map.
okay,
All of the existing R5s at that time were converted strictly to a PDD. Now, if you applied for a PDD today, I believe I quoted you the section that says there are certain zoning categories that have to exist as the underlying base layer of zoning before you can apply for the PDD. That was an existing R5, so it just got turned into a PDD. So there
Sure.
is no underlying zoning district, and the planned development district is a zoning category in our ordinance.
okay.
So that
So,
one was-
so is it, and does it, it just doesn't make, and I know there's things that don't make sense, but it doesn't make sense to me to have a house on a parcel of land where you only have one house, to me, that doesn't make sense to have that as a condominium. You know, it troubles me when you have this parcel, when you're dividing these parcels off.
The reason for the PDD is because Willow Lane is a private road. So in our zoning ordinance.
This Willow Lane here is a
Yes.
private road?
Private.
Oh, it's not a town road?
No, it's private. And so we need to, in our zoning ordinance, have a mechanism for an individual to develop on
Are,
a private road because they couldn't meet the road right of way.
are these other parcels along here? Are they?
The Willow Lane is a private road from the start to the end. It's not a town road. There's no road right of way of any kind. And so that is the
Ah.
reason for the PDD.
Are these properties over here?
All of them
Are
on
oh,
a private, Willow Lane is a private road.
oh, so these are all also private,
Yes.
part of a condominium?
No,
No,
they're existing.
they're
structures
existing
on a private road.
on a private road.
So because of Willow Lane being private, that's where they need the PDD or needed at the time, PDD, or the
Okay.
R5 at that time.
Yeah.
So all they're essentially doing, which is different from 97 until now, is putting lot lines in to that, what was a condominium development.
Okay,
So what's being proposed is a 4-lot subdivision within a PDD. They're not asking for the PDD that exists currently.
okay.
My
Okay.
thought, since it's on a private road, and we have some of that in our township, it's on a private road. So I don't have a problem with this. And what the history you just gave us again is I don't have a problem with that either. Is it unique that these people didn't own the land underneath their home?
No, that was the condominium type development.
Right, so
They own the building and the building footprint of the heaven, that's it. For whatever reason, they're now coming and they want to have
Right.
land. So they were in compliance in 97 when they did this originally. This subdivision is in compliance with our subdivision ordinance and our zoning code.
Okay,
so this cleans it all up.
Honestly, it doesn't change anything.
Okay, it doesn't change.
They got the conditional use permit for 3 single-family residences in 97. They're not proposing any additional.
Right.
Because that 4th lot, which is the bulk of the property, is common element. So all they're doing is drawing lot lines around what was approved in 97.
Okay.
Both of which are in compliance with our then zoning ordinance and current zoning ordinance.
okay.
So what happens if we vote this down?
They don't own land.
Which is something I don't want to. I don't,
At the end of the day,
yeah,
and in the simplest terms I can put this, the only thing that's changing is they drew lot lines around what was allowed in 97.
Right.
Okay.
And this is why there's a document, because Willow Lane ends right here
Yeah,
and there was a gap. So they took that chunk to bridge the gap, and there's a document for that. I can't attest to what that document says, but at the end of the day, Willow Lane's a private road. They've added that little piece to get access all the way to the beginning of the original parcel.
Yes,
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve this second amendment to Willow Lane condominium south of 9251 Willow Lane and west 9213 Willow Lane, town of Wolf River, with the understanding that staff has said that proposed use take out R2, adjoining land, take out A1 and R1. And otherwise, all the comments, I will make the motion to approve.
second,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
Could I make a friendly amendment to that?
Sure.
That it be approved on the condition of the acceptance by the town of Wolf River?
That's on.
I think that's
Is that-
number
We've
got
six.
that covered,
Number
yeah.
six.
As
Yep.
long as that's covered,
Yep, that's on there.
as long as that's covered,
Yeah.
why?
Right.
Okay,
Any more discussion on this? Seeing none, do a roll call. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes.
Now we would be in adjournment for the deliberative.
I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourn the meeting. Stack of stuff. They're getting rid of some of Wolf River, maybe they'll have to build a house.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
nice to meet you.
Shauna,
Shauna, yeah,
yeah, Jerry Bougie, County Planning Director.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Likewise.
Just need to call this to order and you've got everything.
Yeah, just start with the number on the agenda. So number one is the minutes.
Call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Committee to order. Let's start with the approval of minutes from March 29th public hearing, April 8th planning meeting, April 27th viewing, and April 27th public hearing.
So move.
I'll second it along with the March 29th.
Did I miss one? Oh, March 29th. Oh, sorry about that. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Accepted. Turn it over to staff.
So number two on the agenda, we've got a couple of projects that have been kind of going on for the last number of years. I'll start with 2A, which is the A1 rezoning project. I sent you that link to a very brief description of the Department of Ag, Trade and Consumer Protection Farmland Preservation Program. County has what's called a farmland preservation plan. It's an element of the comprehensive future land use plan. We've been working on this for a number of years, and Tom and Mary Beth will get bored of tears, but December of last year, they DATCAP, which I will refer to as the Department of Ag from here, certified our farmland preservation plan. What the farmland preservation plan is if you place your property in that plan and you have the A1 zoning classification, which is strictly tied to the farmland preservation plan, you can claim a $7.50 tax credit per acre per year. This started back in the early 80s. And they revamped the program in 2008. So our current plan is based on the 2008 state statute. When we redid our plan, the only town that wanted to have farmland preservation was the town of Nepieskin. So as it currently stands, that's the only town that has any farmland preservation plan area. However, throughout the rest of the county, there are A1 zoning parcels based on the previous plan. The A1 zoning district is pretty restrictive, which is a caveat of participating in that plan. We have all along intended to rezone those properties outside of the farmland preservation plan from A1 to A2 because of the fact that A1 has some pretty severe restrictions. And from our perspective, there's no reason to have A1 if you're not part of the plan, because the whole bonus of being in the plan is that tax credit. And you can't claim the credit with just A1 zoning. You have to be part of the farmland preservation plan map and have the A1 zoning. So we have planned all along to go ahead and rezone all of those properties outside of that farmland preservation plan map.
Strictly on a voluntary basis.
Voluntary basis. We've already sent the letter to all the towns notifying them of this, which they already knew beforehand. We're at the point now where I will be sending a letter to every owner of a parcel that's zone A1, letting them know that this is gonna take place. We are not going to make this mandatory. So in other words, if somebody calls us and says, we want to keep it, we'll give them an explanation of why we're doing this, and if they still want to keep it, that's fine. However, they will have to submit a form with a list of parcel numbers that they want to keep A1. That's for record keeping and for us, because we've already had, I never told you to do that, I told you to do this type of thing. So we would require that, but at the end of the day, this is not going to be mandatory if somebody does not want to have their A1 zoning removed. We're hoping to have this done by the end of the year. Fingers crossed. Because we've been working on this for the last 12 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember the day we were in Madison? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, remember that. Yeah, and these, when, Brian, do we anticipate sending letters to the property owners pretty soon?
Either the next week or the week after.
Okay.
I just
so-
gotta sit down with Dean.
Yeah.
And not Dean. Adam. Wow.
Yeah, and so letters will go out to the property owners that have A1 zoning. You know,
It's about-
offering them this opportunity to rezone out. It would be at no cost to them. It'd be a one-time shot where it would be, available to them at no cost. We'd create a list of all these properties that would be, or if the property owners that would like to rezone out, and eventually that will be, would go to public hearing before this committee, and then on the county board for a final decision, but that's sort of the process on this, so.
And again, this is something we had planned on doing all along. It's just that we're at this point now because the plan was recertified by DATCAP and is in place. It's about 1,100, give or take, property owners currently. And again, like Jerry said, this is on our dime. And if somebody says they don't want us to do that to their property, we won't, we'll let them keep the A1, so.
Will this be going to all the NEPSCOM people also?
But it wouldn't. go
We're
to
not
them
gonna even
because-
touch that.
Yeah,
I
because,
guess that I'd ask.
because they're locked into the
Mhm.
program because of NEPSCOM, but. Yeah, so. it wouldn't be
What
going-
difference
wouldn't be
does it
going to
really
the-
make whether they're zoned A1 or A2?
With the A1 zoning, there are development standards that are severely more restricted than A2. They're limited on how much they can parcel off and sell.
Yeah, but so what? What difference does that make to us?
It makes a big, nothing to us, but to the property
Well-
owner, it,
Yeah, it's.
It's,
yeah,
it's,
That's a benefit for the property owner, yes.
I don't know. I don't see the advantage if they're happy with the A1. Why are we? It seems like if they're happy with A1 and now we're requiring them to
we're
take
not
action.
requiring.
No,
Yeah, but we're requiring them to take action to stay A1 rather than doing it the other way.
Yes.
And
yeah, we want to create a paper trail here, because what happens is, from our experience and, over the years, unless we have some sort of documentation saying that they wanted to stay A1 or get out of A1, our experience is that we go through this process and then we get certain property owners that come along and say, you know, I never said this, or I never said that, or whatever it may be. And so then we need to then follow up and attempt to try to go back and, you know, go through the process again, you know, because someone claims that they weren't contacted or they weren't given the opportunity, or, so that's why we asked for the paper trail. It's been our experience that, you know, we need some sort of documentation that suggests this was the desire of the property owner at the time that this was offered to them. And because we often times get people that would come along later saying, again, they weren't given the opportunity, they didn't hear about it, they didn't know about it, all of this stuff. So, and believe me, it happens. So that's the purpose for it. So that's why we're requesting a response.
Yeah, but I guess my question is, what difference does it make to the county whether they're zoned A1 or A2?
To us, it doesn't,
Then why are we doing this?
for the property owners. We've had dozens of individuals that wanted to get out of A1, and we told them, just wait, you can do it for free. Keep in mind that A1 zoning is tied to the farmland preservation plan.
Okay,
They're supposed to go hand in hand. So if they're not part of the farmland preservation plan and have the A1 zoning, they can't claim the credit, for one thing. And their development standards are strictly limited as compared to A2. With the A2, there's a lot more flexibility with what they can do as far as development or selling parcels or anything of that line. So we're going from pretty strict to less restrict. So it's a benefit to the property owner because they can't, if you're outside of that farmland preservation plan with the A1 zone, you can't claim the tax credit. That was the
I
benefit.
understand. I understand that, but shouldn't it's like, if you want to make this available to them, I guess I have kind of a problem with, you've got to take action to stay the same. Otherwise, you're going to get rezoned. To me, that's backwards. You know, if you want to send out a letter that says, okay, this is available now, all you have to do is return this letter and say you want to do it. Now we're forcing something on them. To me, it's like forcing a zoning change on them. Okay,
So your suggestion is to send the letter out to the A1 property owner saying,
if you want to change,
if you want to change it,
now is the time to
send us
change.
back.
Yep.
Okay, and
And that way, you know, change is not forced on them. They have the option to do it. It's now like, now you're gonna, otherwise you're making them take an action to stay the same.
I can just give you a little brief history on what an EPS have done. They done it that way. You are automatically an A1. And if you wanted to get out of A1, you had to tell them that. Otherwise, you're automatically. So even though you're A2 or whatever, they took the
Yeah.
whole township and they're A1. If you wanted to go back to A2, you had to let them know. So it's kind of somewhat, I'm not saying whether it's right
Yeah.
or wrong, but it's
Yeah,
it's
to me,
somewhat the same thing.
yeah, to me, that's change should require the action. No change should not require an action.
Our town doesn't have any A1. We have all A2.
Right.
We're happy with A2 because
Yeah.
the farmers are happy with A2 and some of them are selling off parcels. And A2, we just had an instance of A2 had more flexibility.
Yeah.
So we aren't even going to be involved in this. Our farmers did
Yeah,
not want
I-
to be an A1
Yeah, and
because of the restrictions and because a lot of our farmers, that's their children's inheritance to do what they want. They didn't want to restrict them. So there's another case. I don't think we're trying to force people to get out of A1. We're giving them a choice and it's free. Otherwise, if they come back later, they will be
Yeah.
paying a fee.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're trying to force anybody out of anything. But now's the time because A1 doesn't have any relevance, like you said, with that cap if we're not in.
If they're outside of the farm preservation plan.
As far as to do with the township or the county, I should say here, if you want to go ahead and develop that A1, they've got to know if it's an A1 or not, because you're not allowed to
Sure.
do some of
Sure.
them things in that. So I can see where they need a follow-up of paperwork and this and that, they have to know
So can you change that later?
for cost.
For
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
It's free now. so
that's the
later.
caveat. If they waited, then later on, they would have to pay for it themselves, yes.
So-
Okay, so I have some overall
Mhm.
questions that I'd like to know what you are guessing the arguments would be from these folks. I'd like to, I have a few questions. I'm wondering, what will I be hearing?
Well, you might hear something on, just guessing, but
Mhm,
things like, what do you know about this? What advantage is this to me to change my zoning to A2 from A1? Probably things like that. It's more of, I think, what is this about and what is the benefit to me as a property owner? I guess those would be, I'm just trying to think, if I
Right,
was a property
sure.
owner and I got this letter sort of out of the blue and, what do I do with it?
Right. Because
Yeah,
I hear strict, less strict.
Right.
Is strict equate with less federal to more federal? Because I'm
Yeah, yeah.
one of those that I feel uncomfortable with
Mhm.
whether this pertains to the situation.
Right,
This Wisconsin farmland preservation zoning, we had a small acreage and
Mhm.
I want to maintain, freedoms and all of that. I don't know.
sure, you're, well, in a roundabout sense, you're gaining more freedom by going to A2. Because you can do more things with your land than you can with A1. Okay, so maybe what might be helpful if,
Mhm.
we can,
Mhm,
we can provide like a one-page kind of sheet that says, well, this is what this is the restrictions in
mhm.
A1, and then
Yeah,
these are the
Allowed uses.
allowed uses,
Sure.
Mhm.
development opportunities, whatever, yeah, sure.
Sure, yeah.
And in A2, this would be the difference from you as a property owner. If you're in A1, these are the restrictions you're under. If you're in A2, these are the development opportunities.
uh-huh. Okay, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, so I can see if you don't know anything about this stuff, yeah, it can,
Yeah, and then the other question I have is what's in it for the county? The
Right.
administrative aspect versus the landowner.
well, again, I guess from the county, it doesn't matter, again.
Or the
see
state,
one
I'm just
benefit
looking
for
at,
This is a benefit
The
to the
benefit.
property owner.
okay, yep,
But
I've
it would
heard
also
that.
be a benefit to
And-
the county because it would be less restrictive. We wouldn't need to change the zoning when they
True.
come in to do something different.
At
That's-
$765.
And that's and time.
Yeah.
As
yeah,
we all
that-
know, nothing moves through us quickly.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So in that regard, that's another benefit
Okay.
for the county
Okay,
and
Yeah.
the owner.
Another caveat is our farmers didn't care
Yeah,
about
I
this
mean,
credit
you're right,
with the restrictions that A1
I
had.
mean, it's all
They
time for
didn't
you
care
guys.
about that.
yeah,
Because they were in a previous
And us.
program
Right.
where
right, yeah, we don't have to deal
they
with
signed
the,
up for something that it wasn't worth. It
They have to
wasn't
pay
worth
back
the
that money too if they ever want to develop that.
Okay.
Right, right,
That's a
yes.
big thing.
In a bit of history, when we developed the current plan, we did probably 4 mailings to every landowner with 5 acres or more,
Mhm.
telling them that there's a regional meeting, that we will be there to explain to you what this program is.
mhm.
We never had more than 20 people show up.
thousands of letters.
Yeah, it was a lot. We had a lot of, we probably had 15 to 20 meetings
Mhm.
where we explained this. And again, never had more than 20 people. The farmers don't care, for the most part, I shouldn't
Mhm.
include all of them. For the most part, they do not care about 750 an acre. If they're in a location where it's beneficial to them to parcel off a piece of property to sell to somebody, they're in that position.
Mhm.
Development dictates what farm gets eaten up. And it isn't this A1 zoning classification.
Mhm.
We've had this program in different iterations since the early 80s. It has been, for lack of a better word, a disaster from day one. It just doesn't accomplish what it was intended to accomplish.
Okay,
And
No, this
so,
is a state mandated program that's put on counties throughout the state.
okay, all
yeah,
right.
yeah,
It's
that's a good,
it's a state mandated program, so all counties are required to do farmland preservation plans and go through this. And which gives potentially property owners credits on land if they participate in the program.
Okay,
So it's all part of a state mandated program, so this isn't something we just dreamed up one day.
so Mary Beth
There
pointed
was
out,
one before this.
Yeah,
though.
oh, yeah.
That was a disaster.
Yeah,
yeah, a
so
bigger disaster.
Mary Beth would just pointed something out as far as this. I'm not quite sure if you could. The $10 an acre for landowners with land in a designated AEA covered by a farmland preservation agreement, which is also versus $7.50 an acre. Could you explain that?
Yeah, the AEA stands for Agricultural Enterprise Area. And what that is if 4 or more farmers get together and agree to put property in the AEA, and if your farmland preservation plan has an area that's shown as AEA, you get the additional $2.50. That's the difference.
Okay,
The $7.50 is just for a single farmer with his property in the program.
okay,
The $10 is for 4 or more farmers.
We don't have a lot of that.
sure,
We don't
okay,
have any AEA.
sure,
No,
okay,
no,
so it's
no.
not really a,
it's a very difficult thing to get.
It's rare. The state doesn't have a lot of it.
Yeah, it's.
Okay.
It's
So,
rare.
yeah, just to reiterate Jerry's point, we as a county are mandated to have a county board approved farmland preservation plan. We are not mandated to have the state of Wisconsin certify it. And if you go on DATCAP's website and look at the map of counties with a certified farmland preservation plan, it's about a third of the counties. Without getting into the gross detail, this thing has been a pain in the rear end from day one. It doesn't accomplish what it was intended to accomplish, which is why we're doing this zone change. It
Okay.
removes quite a few restrictions to the property. But again, we can word it any way you want for the letter we send out. And again, if somebody wants to keep, they can keep it.
Mhm.
And, and Howard, your point about just sending it out, I mean,
You-
that's fine. We could just go that route and, it's gonna be the burden placed on that particular property owner to make sure that if they want to get out, that they need to let us know and submit something back and say, yes, I would like to get out.
I know the towns that I represent.
Right.
Okay. Wolf River, they have taken A1 out of their zoning code.
Sure,
They've just eliminated it.
sure.
Winchester will not do that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
they're they're gonna keep it.
Yeah, sure,
Okay, I just know the towns,
sure.
and that's the difference. And I just think we should
Yeah.
we should give people the option, but inaction should make them stay where they're at.
Sure.
I think that's,
Do we, I mean, it's up to the committee, obviously. I mean, would you rather us hold off on sending that letter out at this point and maybe have a broader or more in-depth discussion on this Potentially at the next meeting, which would be June, whatever, June.
Mhm.
It's, I mean, it's
I'm gonna
entirely
say
up to the
no.
committee. I mean, it's
I'm
up
gonna
to you
say
guys.
no. Just because I got the background.
Right.
You know,
And,
maybe
and we've
not,
been,
but-
we've been talking about this possibility of sending these letters out.
For a decade.
And it bothers me about the inaction, okay? So you send out 1,100 letters. If that's not worded right, you gotta have a deadline date in there of when they should get back to you, but now you're saying inaction means I don't want to change. Maybe in the future, that's gonna bite us.
But I think it depends on the wording. It
The
has to be
wording is
very,
important.
very,
We'll try to.
And I'm
This
sure
is
you're
a
good at
one-
that.
One-time
We'll send them
opportunity.
blinking lights, but you know,
And,
You know,
and
people are,
describing.
you know-
can you
A1
tell
and
them the
A2.
760
yeah,
fee?
yeah, we'll,
And, but that's
65.
765 at this
You just
point in
tell 'em
time.
everything.
$5.
Yeah.
This is a one-time.
Give it all.
Opportunity
Right.
to
Lay it all
not
out there.
pay. If,
Yeah.
you know, here's A1, here's A2,
Well-
you know, just kind of.
Yeah, and keep in mind, we're under we don't have a timeline. This is something we just knew we were gonna have to do at some point. We can do this multiple times. So if we do it the one way where we word it where if you want to change, get back to us, see how that goes. 6 months down the road, we can do that again. If we're getting phone calls about, I wanted, you know, you told me you were gonna get me out, why am I not out? We have no timeline here. We can do this multiple times. I prefer not to do it multiple times, but.
And I think
that's an
the
option.
farmers are, they're gonna get this. They're not out there. You know, like in our town, A1 was not gonna work, too restrictive, okay? So we don't have it in our zoning. And everybody that's in A2, that's farmer, Orange farmland, they're happy because they can do more things, selling or right now. It works for our township, but I think the farmers are a great group of people that'll figure A1, A2. If maybe you give them that little description of what they can do now and what they could do in A2 and
Yeah,
let them figure it out,
yeah.
because
and-
everybody's different,
right, and again, we're not under any timeline.
right?
There's no gun to our head. We can have the committee approve the letter before we send it out if you'd like.
I'm just kind of looking around to get a feel of what.
I don't
everybody
need
thinks.
to approve a letter from planning.
Yeah.
I don't need to micromanage them.
Right.
I don't need that either.
Right.
No.
My biggest
This-
problem with this right now is that the farmers are gonna be really busy. How many of these are gonna get thrown
Right.
inside and not
you know,
looked at?
that's a good point too, Tom.
Planting.
Sending the letters out in,
Planting time.
after planting is over would be
Would
a
be better.
benefit.
Right,
I work with
Good
farmers
point.
a lot. and
right,
And they're
And we're
just
getting
waiting
into
right
that
now to be
season
able
where-
to do things.
right,
So,
but I would do
Dave.
once and that's my feelings.
so when is good?
This winter would have been ideal.
This
Okay.
cold spring would have been ideal.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because they were sitting at home watching the rain.
Back when
Yeah.
back when it was really rainy and wet, when they couldn't. do
That's a
anything
very
in the
good
fields.
point, Howie. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So is the consent, there's no action.
Right.
Is the consensus to hold off now for the letter, wait maybe mid-summer?
I don't know. I still like the idea of just progressing forward somehow with it.
Okay,
I
sure.
mean, you know,
Well, it's gonna take them a
Some
while to get a
way.
letter. composed.
I understand,
No,
but
it's not.
yeah, if you're trying to get farmers to do something, this is a really, this next month or 6 weeks is,
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
okay, yeah,
Yeah,
we
you
can-
you're just wait
They're-
till
We can hold off.
6
Yeah,
weeks from now
I-
or whatever. Okay,
So say maybe July.
yeah,
First part
I
of
think,
July or whatever.
yeah, I think that would be much better.
Sure,
Then
all right.
you're-
Yeah, like Brian said, we're not under any timeline here, any deadline. And obviously, Tom and Mary Beth been dealing with this forever. But.
what's another?
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah, what's another,
A
so,
few, no more than that,
A
right?
lot, it's a lot to me. We've been dealing with this for 12 years.
I know.
yeah,
No, we can hold off.
So
yeah,
back to,
we're- Yeah, no problem. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
yeah.
just to hash this out with the whole action, inaction, I mean, how can we kind of come to some,
I think you need a response. I think no action is gonna, just from previous,
So you want action for a change?
a yes or no.
We can do that.
I don't know if I need it for a change, maybe what's a stamp on an envelope or an email back?
We can do that. But from our experience with this program, in my opinion, I don't think it matters how we word it.
Okay,
I think either way, the ones that would respond either
Okay,
way. And the
okay.
ones that aren't gonna respond
aren't gonna
aren't gonna
respond.
respond.
Okay,
That's my experience.
All
But
right.
We can,
good point.
and again, we have no timeline.
Okay,
So if you want, we can start out with if you want to change, we need action. And see what that does, and then, 6 months down the road, we can do it. the
but
other
how
way.
long a time frame are you gonna have? Say you had 100 farmers that jumped on board, yep, I want A2. The other ones are saying, let me think about
I
it.
would say probably we give them a minimum of 2 to 3 months.
Okay,
I like the idea of a
some time.
second mailing or something of the people that
And-
didn't
And we
respond,
could do that.
Yeah,
of those who didn't respond,
Yeah.
or
we could do that.
Or-
I mean, that's,
any thoughts?
Yeah.
Do you feel that
I
you're gonna
need-
have a
I need to s-
80%, 20%? What do you think you're gonna have?
Based on what?
On just opinion of,
I think we'd get a very low turnout of those taking action to make a change.
okay, that's what I thought you were gonna say.
I think it would be absolutely minimal that we would get that. But that being said, we can still do it that way.
But you do want the change, so
And
that's
again-
the problem.
Yeah, and again, there's really not a benefit to the county other than the fact that if somebody comes in and wants to do something and we tell them they're A1, that's difficult.
And you gotta say,
The
pay
only-
seven
And you're having to
only-
fix it.
Right, the only benefit to the county is that if it is changed to A2 and they come and they want to do something, it's easier, most likely to do what they want to do. That really is the only benefit, but we can do you need action for change to start, and we can do a second one. Again, there's no timeline.
Okay,
I mean, we've already been doing this for 12 years, so another 9 months isn't really, it's a drop in the bucket, but anyway.
okay.
But with just one more thing, just to. So if the A1 is over, A2 is overall better, then could we still go the opposite of what you were recommending, which is.
Well, I think the term better is
Individualized,
is individualized,
All right, sure.
you know?
each
Each.
property owner and their parcel is gonna be individual, whether they choose.
Right, I agree,
Yeah,
right.
but what we will do is provide the committee with just like a one-page sheet that says, this is A1 and these are the restrictions. This is A2 and these are just the benefits and the development opportunities. So, so a property owner can then look at that and go, yeah, I'm probably better off being here instead of here.
Yeah.
Would it benefit, and I'm still learning Robert's rules and all this and the restriction, but would it benefit to address this somehow, some way at a county board meeting where the public did hear about
I'd
it?
actually take it a step farther. Would it behoove us to send these letters to the townships so they make sure that the people
We've
that.
already notified the
Yeah.
towns.
Yeah,
So
are.
they,
Yeah.
but saying that we have this going on right now, yeah,
That went out in January.
Right.
I talked to nobody about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had no response.
I was just hoping that maybe
We,
the town
yeah,
representatives would
Yeah.
be like, hey, guys, you've got a chance
Yeah.
to.
yeah,
That's
we-
Would be a
good
good
point.
idea.
I mean,
we
that-
sent the letter out to every
Yeah.
town back in January, giving them a heads up that this is coming.
Mhm.
I didn't get a phone call. They've, all the towns in this county are fully aware that this program is out there. And
Mhm.
Right, but if they know that all of a sudden we're saying, okay, here's
would-
where the sun, we're
We can
we're
do this-
willing to do this at no cost for this amount of time,
we can do.
because we
second
want to get
notice
this
if we
all
want.
cleared up.
And if the town chairs knew that it would behoove them to help us with the whole, getting the information out for full,
And that's, and
as
that's
much as
been,
possible.
and that's been you know, we've had conversations with town chairs about that, you know, and, you know, that, you know, Tom, I think you're aware too, that just being a town chairman, that, you know, this has been out there. But all the towns are really aware of this.
For 12 years.
They're very,
Yeah.
and, you know, overall, I mean, they're very supportive as far as what we're doing as far as offering these property owners the opportunity to get out of their A1 zoning. Because one time, most of the county was in this farmland preservation. Now, other than Nebiuskin, they've all gotten out because of the headaches with this program.
Mhm.
So all the towns are supportive of it, you know, as to what we're doing. So,
I'm guessing that's why you were for the opposite way of doing it
yeah,
before,
yeah,
because
right.
Farmers don't like this.
I guess I've got a,
Yeah.
if you're going to go ahead and send out two, which for whatever reason, but why don't they go ahead and send out the one now and then send out one a little bit later if that's what you want, but go ahead and send it out now and see what
Yeah.
response they do get. If they're gonna send out two anyways,
Yeah, well,
that's just
Yeah.
another thought that.
Yeah,
you could
so
do.
I mean, you know, Brian's more or less has the letter ready to go. It's just a
You
matter.
just gotta pick the parcels.
I just gotta change the date on the letter.
I don't know what the rest of the committee thinks, but as long as you're gonna send out at least two of them.
With the change of an action not required or action required, are we?
I believe.
I'm for action.
You're
required,
okay.
Yeah, I think you
because
guys gotta decide.
Otherwise,
For
it's
that?
hanging out there
Okay,
and they go, I got another letter. And I
okay.
don't have to do anything.
So that I was just
So
wanting to clarify that. I'm
That's
just
my-
wondering,
that's
because
my-
So that
leave it
means-
at,
We can do it
That's
either
what I
way.
want.
Yeah, I almost wish we could have on the front, like a stamp that your action is required,
Well, would
just to
we-
kind of
You
like,
gotta make
We
letters.
could
Yeah.
do that, John.
yeah, there you go.
well,
I'm
I'm
just
all
saying,
for that.
That's my point. You guys
We
figure
get
out.
so
what you-
much junk mail and
Yeah.
mail and you're just
Right.
busy and technology.
So to clarify, you want a response to make a change?
And they can respond
Okay.
any way they want. They could do an email. They don't have,
We-
you want them to stamp or sign the bottom of the letter and send it back? Couldn't they call you?
No,
Couldn't they email you? How you want to get that
we're
response?
gonna have to have some sort of a paper trail.
Okay, yeah,
Because there are so many parcels involved in
Right.
this. And we wanna make sure that, and that's fine, if you wanna stay or change, whatever. We're gonna have to have some sort of piece of paper, even if they just initial it with parcel numbers, so that we know to either change or not change that.
Or scanning, right?
give 'em-
Would you
I don't
allow
think-
scanning
I don't think we would
of
scan
a
it.
document or?
I'd have to look a little bit further into that to see about the Roberts rules and how that type of thing, but, we're gonna have to have some sort of piece of paper.
Yeah.
So we know that we were told to either do A or B
with a date on it.
with a date.
Yeah.
So regardless of what the
So
letter
you either
says,
put it on the letter or you put a separate piece of paper in there.
That would be
we're gonna
good.
have, we have a form
You have a form, okay,
with owner, address,
parcels.
Self-address,
parcels, date.
I don't know, are you able to, do you have a copy offhand?
No.
self-addressed
Peggy's got it.
Yeah, she's got it in her system.
with a self-addressed stamped envelope.
Uh,
Hey, if you want an action, I mean, when I see something stamped, it's like, oh, they
That's
really
happened.
want me to get this, they've spent some
Well,
money
there
here.
would be a, you know, we'd have to, there'd be a cost to that for us, but,
Yeah.
you know, we could, I mean, that's an option too. We'd have to,
I
set
know,
up some with the post office to have her, yeah. we
I
can-
know that sounds, but like wedding
be a cost to us,
invitations and
but
all
sure.
this, oh, they spent some money.
Yeah.
And the action required and all that. What do you think, Tom?
For whatever the committee thinks.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
I just-
That's a
you know,
non-endorsement if I ever.
Well, I always like to hear what you have to say, so.
I mean, it's nice that if you did that, but I think we're going through a lot. If they really want to have this done, they should take some of this in their own hands, I think.
And that's why I think the zone, that
Okay,
that stamp on the
gotcha.
front would at least grab their attention, like, hey,
Yeah.
I need to open this.
Yeah.
Because it has to do with my zoning
Yeah.
and property.
Sure, absolutely.
And again, just as an
Yeah,
FYI,
that's a good idea.
towns and property owners are fully aware of this because this has been an active thing for the last 12 years. They're not gonna read
You know
this
what I
and
mean?
think,
Right.
it has to be brand new to them. They
Right.
know this is out there,
Get jumped these days, you know.
so. But again, if the committee wants us to send out,
I don't think.
I
you
don't
need to
ne-
give them the action stamp is cool,
Yeah, I think that takes care of it
and,
in my mind.
and we can all afford
Instead
a
of just
stamp.
taking it and throwing
We
it
can
away,
all
they're gonna be
buy a
like, oh,
stamp.
this has to do with my property.
Yeah, it may help. And,
Without
Thanks.
opening it, because in this day and age where people just,
Right.
everybody's gotten that way. Oh, hey, that caught my eye. Okay, this goes in this pile.
yeah, in the end, I don't think any certain way is
Perfect.
perfect,
Right.
because I think in the end, we're probably still gonna, at some point in time, get property owners that are gonna come back and say to us, I never heard about this. What letter? What are you talking about? You know,
Must have got lost in the mail.
I mean, I don't think, whatever we do,
Yeah.
you're gonna get that. I mean,
and I agree with Jerry, I think at the end of the day, this is not gonna be a one-time thing.
No.
I think this is gonna happen multiple times to clean up. Because because this has been going on since the 80s and it's been a train wreck from the beginning, but.
I mean, I suppose if you really want to spend money on this, that you could send out certified mail to each and every.
You could at 765.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
could you do some type of a postcard within it, like the DMV or whatever, they just get it back and they sign it and they get it back in,
Well,
or?
that's kind of, well, you're
Something.
talking about a form, but maybe a postcard,
It's up to you
yeah,
guys, I'm
that's,
just,
yeah, the postcard might be,
That would probably be easier.
and actually, it might be,
Then you
and
can do
if
bulk
it's,
mailing.
if it's, if it's
You
got a
get a cheaper
return
rate.
stamp on it, it would be cheaper than,
Yeah, there's a bulk rate that.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can get a bulk
Yeah.
rate. That's probably a good idea, Sean.
You can get a bulk rate mailing out. You won't
Yeah.
get a bulk rate coming back. I don't know. These are all adults. You put it in an envelope and you put a stamp
And
on it.
yeah, but that takes a lot of time
Ah.
with this younger generation.
And again, I think we've probably done, off the top of my head, 10 separate mailings to everybody over the last 3 or 4 years. And the response, now, we weren't asking them for action, we were just notifying them
Yeah.
of this, that, the other thing. And again, I probably did 30 or 40 regional meetings. We never had more than
Right.
20 people there. So I don't know that the wording or what you supply them with is gonna make a big difference.
Yeah.
Probably a little bit. I don't think we're gonna get everybody, but again, we're under no timeline here. There's no.
We'll just see what kind of response we get.
Yep.
That's all we can do, and.
See what you get on the first go around.
We can send it out the first time with, you have to respond if you want change. Otherwise, they'll get left what they are. We can do that and
Yeah.
see what the response is and probably just. go
Please
from there.
respond if you want to change.
And we can go from there.
Change it,
So,
yeah. Just get this done before you retire. You know,
I'm
you've
all
been on
for-
it
I'm all
12
for
years.
whatever.
Oh, boy, here we go.
I think you gotta have some kind of response. You gotta
We
have,
can send it out that way. They have to take action.
and
for
if they
a
don't,
change.
yeah, if they don't, then they don't. Then
Yeah,
it's, nothing's perfect. here.
And then just the one mailing, can we
No,
just kind
need
of,
to-
move
I-
on?
we
I
need
think
to a
what-
second.
I think what we do is we send the first mailing out
See how-
with action required to make a change and see what kind of response we get. And then I think make a decision after that.
Okay,
With the option of a second.
that sounds
Yeah.
good.
So is that the consensus of the committee?
That's what
Sure.
I'm saying.
are we good?
Yeah.
Yes, we're good.
We're good.
All right, moving on to 2D, subdivision ordinance rewrite project. This has been in the works for, I don't know how many years. That we kept getting put off because of 2A. We're probably this fall, we're gonna start to, I don't know if it'll constitute a rewrite or just an amendment to our subdivision ordinance. There's stuff in there that's not up to par for 2022. That'll be black and white. I don't think it'll be a big deal.
None. We didn't get anything on that.
Okay,
It's
okay.
just conversation.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, there's no documentation for 2B. So this is just something we have in the works. This we're hoping to get done by the end of the year. again, it's pretty black and white. The state statute, all the rewrite's gonna be is basically what the state statutes have changed since the last time we made revision, which was quite a while ago, over 10 years. So that'll be pretty black and white. And Jerry, I don't know what you had on 2C, other,
Yeah. Actually,
Oh, I see.
I'm not gonna,
I do, but.
just real quick, what I've done here is just put together what the planning and zoning department is all about, what we do, our functions, our programs. I'm not gonna go really spend any time going through this. It's primarily for your perusal and read and at your leisure. But it basically just spells out all our programs and our functions. A lot of what we do, again, is mandated under state statutes. Not everything, but predominantly what we do is a lot of state mandated programs, everything from shoreland zoning, the floodplain, the farmland preservation, A1, comprehensive planning, all this stuff is state mandated. And you'll see that all in here. And I'm just providing this to you to look over at your convenience. Our department, we have 4 divisions. One is planning, which Brian and kind of myself is kind of heads that. And then we got zoning, which is Carrie Rose, the zoning administrator, and we have code enforcement staff. And then we have our GIS division. We have three personnel there. And then we have our property listing functions, which is on the first floor of this building. And we have 3 personnel in that department, which basically they get the tax bills out at the end of the year, work on all the changes in the property records as they come in on a regular basis. So they spend a lot of time working with the towns. And with towns on that. So in the end, to get the property tax bills out. So that's really, but this is really for your perusal. And certainly if you have any questions, always available to answer them. That's really just lays out everything we do, and certain portions in there, you'll notice the state statutes, what we function under, that we're responsible for. So we list all those in there. And so again,
Great information for us.
Sure.
Yep. PowerPoint.
Because you get a lot more at you right away.
Yeah, and we function under a lot of different statutory requirements. Oh, yeah, so that would be the conditional use.
Yeah.
So the committee
Is it-
review
Is
on,
this me or is this my vice chair on this one?
no, that would be you.
Okay.
Mm,
Committee review and action on amendment request for conditional use 2017 CU 4250. Michael's Road and Stone Inc., formerly P&Q Oshkosh LLC, east of 1687 Old Nap Road, town of Nakai.
So in 2017, Oshkosh Truck Corporation applied for a conditional use permit to park their military vehicles in this site, which is a quarry. It was granted with a number of conditions. They are now asking for a minor amendment to add 2 loading dock areas. Because apparently what happens is when the vehicle is going to be put into service. They're loaded on a semi and driven to whatever the destination is. And apparently they're doing that currently at the Plainview gas station on the corner of 26 and 41. So they're asking for an amendment to place 2 loading docks in their existing kind of a landing area that they've got there.
So instead of driving the vehicles to Plainview,
Yes,
they're going to have the semis come to that site.
yes, it will
And
reduce the traffic on town roads.
And I'm all well and good with that, except I'm worried about the semis coming now down the road to pick up the. And Michael's has done a good job on this conditional use permit. They've pretty much met all of our standards. If you haven't been out there, it would be worth your drive. I mean, they did a berm, they did the trees,
It's a sight to see.
and I was out there a couple weeks ago and it's jam packed.
It's incredible. And
It's just incredible what's stored out
Yeah.
there. And I get that people don't want the traffic on N, but now you're gonna have semis.
I don't think the semis would be as bad
Bad
as
as
the trucks
all the other-
because it's not just them, they're always running on
They're
there.
security people. and-
Right.
So I am asking for your opinion on this because I would.
There's the lady that represents that township.
Yeah.
I know, but we have a letter from Bartle says that they don't mind this going on, so.
The only 2 complaints we had when this first began was the lights were too high so that you could see them from N,
Mhm.
and they took care of that.
Mhm.
The second biggest complaint was the gravel out in the road. They put in, I forget what it's called, where the trucks drive through before they go on the road that removes the gravel.
Yeah.
They put the turn lane in, they fixed the lights. Before I forget, lighting is part of this request.
It's part of it, yes.
Right, and so our recommendation is for approval with the condition that the lights not be, the lighting is similar to the existing lighting, I think would be the easiest way to put it, so that you can't see them from N. And I don't know if they've got hoods or not. Anyway, so the recommendations for approval with the condition of the lighting be similar to existing lighting.
So now what are your constituents telling you?
I just talked with somebody yesterday about it. So I haven't heard much
Okay.
at all.
Do they know it's coming?
Yeah,
Oh, they do.
this,
That's up.
yeah, I'd have to review my notes a little bit, but anyway. I don't have any comment at this point.
I'd just like to add, as somebody who actually worked for one of the security companies for Oshkosh Corp at one point in my life, there's always a chase truck. There's always a chase truck. So you see like 3, 4 vehicles go out, and there's always a chase truck going out with them, going out, coming back. So it's that 1, 2, 3, say it's 3 vehicles in a chase truck that are driving down the road.
Yeah.
Instead of having those 3, 4 vehicles running down the road, you're gonna have the rig come in, pick them up, the rig leave.
Mhm.
So you're eliminating that 2 traffic, return traffic. It's one of those deals where it's like, I would much rather have 1 semi to deal with than
Mhm.
a few of their MRAPs.
Doesn't he talk in here about how many semis a day?
Yeah, it's actually on the 2 maps that are right here. The future traffic path eliminates 30
Yes.
trucks per day coming out of the lot. And it does, and actually, I
Average.
don't even think he mentions the chase.
20 semis per day.
That's from Plainview. That's what they
And
had
right
from
here.
Plainview, so that would actually change, yeah.
Truck chase team takes average 30 trucks per day coming out of the lot.
So this unspecified public use, is that verbiage anywhere in this document with the zoning? With,
Unspecified public use.
yeah, so we're talking about the conditional use. So they're asking for a conditional use, correct?
They have one.
An amendment.
Oh, they already have
They
an
have one, yeah.
amendment to
It's a
that?
minor amendment.
Okay,
They're asking for a minor amendment instead of doing the whole condition.
Because at the time of the application, they didn't have these loading docks as part of their site plan.
Mhm. Okay,
Mr. Chairman, to get it on the floor, I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve Michael Gould and Stone Incorporated conditional use amendment for the Nakai.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion on this?
I'm just, so I'm just wanting to, from Mr. Chairman Bartles from Nakai. I'm just looking at the town of Nakai had conversation with representatives from Oshkosh Corp. Josh Fenner and Michael's Bob Bingen, Wednesday night at our meeting, and we do not believe it will be a problem to modify the conditional use permit to allow the loading and hauling of trucks from the site. I guess that would be my only, I'm glad to see that from, as representing the area. So I don't have anything more.
Yeah, and because typically when we do a conditional use permit, we do allow the town to offer, from their perspective, any contingencies that the town feels is important.
Mhm.
So we blend that in with the county's part of it, so it becomes sort of one conditional use permit.
Mhm.
So the town is involved,
Yeah,
you know,
so that's good.
yeah.
Yeah, to their points, the town did approve. And just as a housekeeping to the new individuals, on a conditional use permit, the town can recommend approval with conditions. And if this committee adopts those conditions and there's any issue with it, the town would attempt first to fix it. And if they can't, they refer that back to this committee. And then this committee would make a motion of some sort to either issue a violation or to that effect of conditions, just as an FYI.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think one of the original ones, when we first made it, I think they wanted some trees and that along in there, and so that was the thing that was in the conditional use, that they had around the back, the people were complaining, so I think that was.
And they
added
didn't
in.
get the first batch of trees planted quickly enough, but
So
they've said everything, they've done everything they've asked.
The two times we had an issue, we called Bob Bingen, who's the head of
Good
Michael's Group,
guy.
and he got it taken care of in 24 hours. So they knew that they had a bullseye on their back when they applied for this originally. They know that if there's an issue, they'll take care of it. So.
Yeah, they've been, it's been very good to work with.
No, they really will, because their boss is running for governor.
Yeah, we don't want to go there.
I guess I don't think that-
I think I'm gonna throw my hat in next week. Yeah, let's get more of the merrier here.
Any other comments or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? Okay, moving on to the next item. Do I have, let's see. This is one more there. Committee review and action to forward town zoning ordinance amendment to county board.
And I've got that as soon as I find the ZA's memo. So you're gonna see a lot of these, and what this is when a town under their own zoning jurisdiction does a zone change, it comes to this committee first, and the only reason is to verify that they've done it correctly via public hearing and everything else, and that it's in compliance with the county land use plan before it gets to the county board floor. So you're not deciding on the zoning changes, you're just verifying that it was done correctly and it's in compliance with our land use plan. So the memo from, that's the wrong one. This is the right
So
one.
basically, we're just overseeing it to let the rest of the county board know,
Yes.
We're the
that's
ones who
exactly
looked
what it's
at it.
for.
just this is good.
Yeah, right, because if it's town zoning, even though they change it at the town level, it still goes through the full county board.
Right.
So this committee just verifies that everything was done correctly before it gets to the county board floor.
Yeah, it's required under state statute. that
We
the
had one of
County
those at our
board
last board meeting.
approves the
Yeah.
town zone.
So it's a process.
And you'll see a lot of these. So here, I'll read the memo from the Kerry Road, the zoning administrator. John and Shelley Olson, town zoning change, parcel ID 028-0787-01-01, town of Winchester. The town zoning change for John and Shelley Olson is consistent with Winnebago County's future land use plan. The town of Winchester approved the zoning change from R1 Rural Residential District to A2 General Agricultural District, and Winnebago County's future land use plan shows future land use as agricultural and rural. The recommendation is approve a motion to forward zone change to county board for action.
I was on the Town of Winchester Planning Commission when this went through. And what they've done is they've added some acreage to their current lot. They bought it from, actually, John bought it from his brother. And so it's up to 5 acres, just over 5 acres. So they're changing to A2 zoning. Very straightforward.
Mhm.
Just say it's nice to see something going from R1 to A2 instead of all of them that are always going from A2 to
Yeah,
the other way
R1.
around.
Reversed, yeah.
You know, having a little more green space is always a good thing in the
Yeah.
county. And any other discussion on this? All those in favor of moving this forward?
Need a motion.
I'll make a
Oh,
motion to
sorry.
approve.
I'll second.
Sorry, getting ahead of myself.
That's
here.
okay.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, forward that then. Now I enter.
Yeah, just real quick, John, I'm sorry. I meant to include on the agenda a discussion, with this committee as far as meeting times. As you know, the county board ruled the 3 to 8 o'clock. That's my fault for missing that on this agenda. My fault. I should have included that. I just slipped my mind. Anyway, so at one of the next meetings, the committee will need to address that. As far as having these meetings outside of the 3 to 8 o'clock.
We
time.
address it and vote on it. We've done that at our other committee.
Yeah.
We can give a consensus now, though. We
Yes.
just can't vote
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, right, yeah,
Right.
so,
I know with aviation, we went from 8:30 to 8,
Yeah, we went from 8:30 to 8 unanimously. So
but that was because a lot of the stakeholders actually that were there asked us
they asked,
to keep
they
it during
asked us
during
to
working
keep
hours.
it
So,
at that, yeah.
because that was when they could make it, people from Fox
And that
Valley.
was what was bothering me because the guy from Fox Valley texted, I can't make it 3 o'clock. So right away, we
Yeah.
lose one of our stakeholders and the EA won't come at 3 o'clock.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so we voted unanimous. PNF went to 9 AM. So it is varying.
yeah,
And so I thought we would all stay like we have been here.
And I think I mentioned this at the public hearing, but just keep in mind, the reason we deliberate at 7:30 and have the public hearing at 6:30 is because of the court reporter.
But we didn't have a court reporter today,
I know.
which is,
Yeah. Anyway.
She wasn't at the meeting that
No,
night.
she
No.
wasn't. Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah,
So we
that's
gotta
what we've
give
been
her
told,
back.
but we haven't seen her, so.
Get her back in the loop.
Just put push talk to text on my phone.
I would be in
But
favor
that
of
doesn't
leaving
always
it.
work very well.
I know that we've always do it a year in advance. And so the meetings are already all set up and the times and all that. I would be in favor of leaving it as is.
sure.
So-
I am sure in favor of leaving it where it's
and
at.
I
And-
explained
I
the
love
viewing
the
can't take place at 3 to 5 in winter.
And,
Yeah.
and the other thing is the reason why the deliberation is the following week after the public hearing is because towns have 10 days after the public hearing to give us a recommendation, okay?
So
That's
that
one-
allows for the.
That's one reason. The other reason is you'll see at times there's things that come up during the public hearing that we have to do research on between the public hearing and the deliberative and do the staff report. And so that's why there's such a big
10
gap,
day, yeah.
because we need time to make sure we got everything covered before the deliberation, so.
That's something for everybody to think on. Any other?
No.
So what's your feelings on it? You're the only one we haven't heard from.
I'm gonna go with what works for the group. I'm not gonna, like I said, at aviation, I suggested that we move from 8:30 to 8 only because of those, because I know we had Kobe who had to leave because of work.
Right.
I take off of work for these morning meetings, so it's.
And then Jim Shell says, any earlier than 8? And it's like, no, we're not. And eight was fine with everybody.
Yeah,
Right.
that was
And,
great.
and like I said, we heard from the stakeholders that were there that we needed those meetings.
And we had a lot of them there.
And that was, with us, our public, the intent of, and I've talked with you guys about this, the intent of what we did as county board was to create more transparency, more openness. Well, our one meeting where the public has input, we're in that time frame.
Mhm.
We're just taking care of all the sausage making
Right.
in the early morning hours. And and the public can still view us. They can still, I believe the videos are accessible.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and the minutes definitely are.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they can still see the process that's going on. And they would have just as much input by reading it afterwards, because if they're here, they can't say anything. If anything, it might behoove some people not to be here, because, some people who are unintentionally, when you say something they don't agree with. So, yeah, as far as how I feel about it, I think we're set up actually already in compliance with what we tried to do as a county board. I think seeing a lot of nodding heads, you all agree with me on that.
Yeah.
So,
Did, John, does the committee want to maybe just take a quick action?
We just
maybe
did it at our meeting.
At our view, you could do it at your next
Yeah.
viewing,
Yeah.
just do
Yeah.
a quick.
That'd be our next meeting.
Yeah, that would be
So-
the next meeting. We could just
When's
do
our
it
next
before
meeting?
you jump in the van or
Oh.
something. you
What
know.
Friday is our
there.
next meeting? The
Oh,
viewing
just
is-
the
the
viewing,
Friday
okay.
before-
I have it on my
Friday
calendar.
before.
We're supposed to call it to order.
yeah.
But it'd
Do
be the
what?
Friday before Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, that's fine. I have it on my.
Well,
calendar.
what I would say, if we want to stay in the full spirit of transparency, have this for our next public hearing. So that way, if anybody does, because they'll see it on the agenda, and if anybody does have an issue, they can come voice their,
Sure.
I mean, I think that's just staying within what we're trying to
We
do.
did it before we adjourned our meeting.
Exactly.
Because I wanted the people to be there.
Yep.
vote, And they're. the
And I,
audience
and I
is
think it
all
would be
there.
really good if somebody were to have an issue, or that they wanted to say something, at least they could have a chance to speak their piece, and we can take that in before we,
We'll put that as a first item on the next public hearing.
Okay,
sounds great.
yeah, sounds good.
With that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you.